Welcome to the monthly Consumer Issues program hosted by Cornell Cooperative Extension, Tompkins County. On the second Thursday of each month, we're joined by New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher, who makes a presentation on a topic of consumer interest. Today, he will give us a presentation on avoiding consumer problems on the internet. After his presentation, Mr. Danaher will answer questions that viewers have submitted to CCE Tompkins in the Zoom chat box. This presentation also will be available on the CCE Tompkins YouTube channel and will be broadcast next month on Mondays on Public Access Channel 15. Thank you for joining us today. And now here is New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher with today's program.
Thank you, Sandy. Good morning, everyone, or whenever you're watching this. Happy holidays for those of you who are watching this near or at the end of the holiday season. We're taping this as the holidays are in the heat of it. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today, or the thing we're going to talk about, is how to be a good consumer with using the internet. We all know that the internet's a great thing. I'm using it all the time. I'm using it all the time, looking things up like crazy. Takes us to great places. We can look at pictures, and I can talk to my granddaughter over the internet, even though she's thousands of miles away, or at least over 1,000 miles away. And so it takes us to great places, provides us with all kinds of information, expands our knowledge. We're hearing about students who last year were fully remote and learning from young ages up through college over the internet. So it provides us with all types of things, frequently with just a click, getting all types of information. It shows us how to do things. I've used this story before, but I'll use it quickly again. I got this notice from my car dealership that when I had it in for an oil change, that I needed to check the cabin air filter, and they wanted to charge, I think it was like $100 or something. And I looked it up, and I found out that cabin air filters for my car are like $15. And so I said, well, I'll go on to YouTube. And I had a video of a guy who had my exact car, and he changed the cabin air filter in under 30 seconds with one hand. And I saw how to do it, boom, done. So we're learning all types of things. Now it's my go-to thing. So if I can't figure out a setting on my phone, how can I switch this around? It's right out of the cell phone to Google or YouTube, and there's usually a video or an explanation of how to do that. It's such a wonderful thing. Before, you used to have to go down to the store, have them look at it, say, oh yeah, you got to do this, this, and this. Now you can fix things yourself. Recently, statistics have shown that there is a huge increase in shopping over the internet. That is especially true now. I think it really started last year when we were going through the pandemic and people wanted to do their holiday shopping, and stores were limited access, and sometimes you couldn't get things. So people started to morph over to do a lot of shopping online, and that's increased even more this current holiday season. Even for not even holiday matters, people are using apps to purchase everyday things. I looked over at my neighbor's house one day near the garage. I was out back this summer. I looked over, and there were 8 grocery bags lined up at their garage door. And a couple of minutes later, the garage door went up. My neighbor came out, picked up their groceries from outside the garage door, and walked inside. They never even went to the grocery store. So it's happening all over the place now. People are buying their holiday presents, groceries, they're buying meals and having meals delivered. The internet is a wonderful thing, but we have to be very careful about our use of it. We are almost coming to the point where we're becoming too comfortable using it, if that's possible. And it's easy for me to say because I'm an old dog, and I started my professional career well before the start of the internet. So I have all kinds of experience without the use of the internet. And then it's morphed over to where, fortunately for me, I forced myself to not bury my head in the sand and say, oh, the internet, it's too complicated. I'm not going to get involved in it. And I've become comfortable with using it as well. But I can see how the protections that were afforded us in the old days without the internet are not necessarily there with the use of the internet. And those people who are younger, who, my kids, almost their entire life, and my kids are older, 20s and 30s, how they have become so comfortable with it, they haven't had the experience to understand necessarily the pitfalls that come up with using it. So we have to be very wary of those sorts of things. It's come to a point where it becomes so comfortable with it, we frequently will drop our guard and not use the protections or use what we know of ways that can go a long way toward helping protect ourselves. Trillions and trillions of dollars are now being spent with purchases over the internet. Approximately 80% or more now of Americans are using the internet and shopping online. Email, e-commerce, and sales are increasing at a rate of approximately just under 20% per year. So in dropping our guards, we've started to be more comfortable in giving out our personal information over the internet, sending out money to people that we don't know. Charity scams are a big thing that's happening now, and we have a separate session that we do on charitable giving, so I won't belabor that point, but we have to be very wise when we're going on the internet making charitable donations. And clicking on links that are purportedly sent to us by others, and some of whom we think we know who they are, but we have to be very careful in using it. So one of the big areas that we can talk about now in the holiday season is being very careful when we're buying things online. It's great. We avoid the long lines. We avoid the time it takes to get to the store. We usually get the things in some metropolitan areas the next day, or at the very least 2 days later. And it allows us the opportunity to compare prices, but we have to be very careful about that as well. It does allow us to understand product features. It allows us to do research to see if we're mixing apples with apples and oranges with oranges, so that the item that we want to purchase is exactly what we expect it to be. I wouldn't do this, and I don't ever foresee myself doing this, but you can buy a car over the internet and have it delivered to your house. I don't see the amount of money that would cost for a car, why people wouldn't do the test drive and everything before they commit to buy the vehicle. But it's out there and people are using it. So it's great to allow us to make these purchases, but we have to be very careful. Some of the tips in purchasing online: think before you click. We sometimes are passive. We let the offers come to us over the internet. And so, oh, I got this offer, I'm going to click on it because I want to get that thing. It's a common marketing strategy to try and get us to purchase things without actually thinking much about it. Oh yeah, I need that, click. Or that's the greatest deal I've ever seen, click. And we need to be good and wise consumers. Do what a good consumer would do. Evaluate, think about things before you actually make your decisions. These enticing offers are something we say, wow, this is the best deal I've ever seen on that. And we go ahead and we click on it. We may not know what we're getting ourselves into. Recently, as in when we tape this, it was yesterday, I saw the Wall Street Journal. And the Wall Street Journal actually had a section on cybersecurity. And the lead article was about frauds and scams that occurred during the holiday season. And the article points out that cyber attacks and cyber fraud run rampant during the holidays. People are often distracted or frazzled in this holiday rush, and that sometimes we don't have the opportunity and we don't take the time to look through the solicitation or offer and try to and able to pick out whether there's a scam or not. Fraudsters, as we often talk about in these sessions, exploit our fears, anxieties. They know this. They know what's going on. They know what kind of season we're in. They know that consumers can be distracted and frazzled during the holiday season and that rush to purchase goods. They know what's going on in society. We always talk about the fact about scam artists take what's happening to us in society at this time, and they exploit that to commit their frauds. Now, let's use a classic thing that's happened at this particular point in time. What, I ask you, is one of the big concerns that people and businesses are having at this particular time, at this particular holiday season? One of the big ones is, am I going to get my stuff before I have to give out presents? So we saw all those news stories of all the ships that are docked in ports or sitting out at sea waiting to get into ports. And we read stories about how merchants were saying, I don't know if I'm going to get my stuff in time to meet the holiday rush. And consumers are hearing about how the delivery services are packed. They're trying to get employees. The Postal Service, FedEx, Amazon, trying to make sure that we can get the products that we ordered. So we have in our minds as consumers this mindset of, oh my gosh, how am I going to get my stuff? Scam artists know that. They know that. And so then they'll play on that. And we might be getting an email saying, trying to say that they are Amazon. And it may look like it's Amazon. And you get a notice say, well, your package is delayed. In order to expedite you getting your package, click here. You may not be contacted by Amazon. It may be a site that's trying to act like it's Amazon. There may be a slight misspelling in the name, like AMMAAZON.com. If you look at it quickly and we don't take the time to really focus on it, to us it looks like Amazon, but it's actually misspelled. And people are clicking on those links, which can lead to a number of things. One is they may want to expedite the shipping and they click and they send money. That's one bad thing. Or just by clicking on it, it could lead them to a nefarious site that is downloading malware onto your particular computers. That's just one example of us being caught up in not really thinking and pushing ahead. So we need to be very careful about that. Fraudsters might be trying to exploit fears about lost packages, tight supplies, canceled flights. Maybe you're going away for the holidays and you get this email, your flight is canceled or something, click here. Be very careful about those sorts of things. So think before you click. That enticing offer may not be from who it says it's from. One of the good rules of thumb is if it's a major site that we frequently go on, and I'll just use Amazon. It could be Walmart, it could be Target, it could be any website that we typically go to. Go directly to that site, meaning you put in their site, like Amazon.com, rather than clicking on a link that's embedded in that email that you got. Go to the site directly. Do your homework. possibly look if they have a physical store, go to the physical store and look and see if they have that particular item. Customer service information, check into customer service information on that particular entity. Read the reviews. Be wary of individual reviews, but when I look at reviews, I kind of look at them as a whole thing. I look at good ones, I look at bad ones. I make sure that there are a significant number of them. It's not just one or two reviews, because the concern can be that they may have paid an outside service to post reviews for them that were good. So I take them with a grain of salt, but I do still consider them. Read the reviews. The Better Business Bureau at bbb.org has reliability reports on merchants. You may want to check into that. Possibly call the merchant directly at a number you look up rather than one that's in the email that you receive or the text message you receive. You look up that email, look up the number yourself and contact the merchant to verify that a particular offer might be legitimate. Another great rule of thumb, and this was also taken up by the Wall Street Journal article that was recently posted, and that is, when you purchase things online, the best advice is to purchase with a credit card. There are protections available in a credit card, and that if it was a fraudulent transaction, you have ways to challenge that charge. Say you never got the item, you can challenge that charge on your credit card. One thing that is apparently increasing now is that entities that you are purchasing over the internet with will have you purchase the items using gift cards. So the gift card could be just a general gift card that you can use to purchase anything anywhere, like a Visa gift card. That's like handing out cash, having that gift card. So when you use that gift card to purchase something at a non-store branded card, let's say you have a Dick's Sporting Goods card and you go onto Dick's Sporting Goods online site and you use that card to purchase items. That's fine. But if you have a general Visa card and you go onto a website that you aren't familiar with, a merchant site, because you're getting this great deal, and they say to you, well, we only accept gift cards, that should be a red flag. Because when you give them the number that's on that gift card and that they can pull the money off that gift card, you're in essence handing them cash. There is no traceable transaction. It can't be located, and you just hand it over cash, and it may be to someone that you don't know. It acts just like cash. And so that should be a red flag if they're insisting that you only use a gift card. The best thing is to try and pay by credit card. Be very careful about what information you give away. So before you put your credit card information or any other personal information on a website, make sure that you know, one, it's a secure site, and you can tell by if you go up on the URL line, and the URL line is where you type in www.walmart.com, where you type that in. Before what you when you hit enter, before what you type in, there are some letters that come up, and it's http:// and then www. whatever. To get at a secure site, make sure it's HTTPS. S stands for secure site. So make sure that it's a secure site, which would then encode any data you put in, name, address, credit card number, that stuff. It encodes it, encrypts it, and then sends it out over the internet. When it's received by the site that you send it to, it's decrypted so that in that passage of information over the cyberspace, during that passage, it's encrypted. So if it gets stolen in the middle of the transfer, it's encrypted, and that whoever gets that information, it's like gobbledygook. It's not decipherable, and they can't use it. If it's an unencrypted site and you send out personal information, it gets sent out as your personal information. Michael Danaher, my address, my credit card number. If it's not encrypted, it's there for somebody to grab out of cyberspace. So make sure you're using an encrypted site. The good thing about using a credit card is that you can check there's a verification, there's a check by getting your statement every month. You can see what charges you made, and you can make sure that those charges are yours. So importantly, when you get your bank statements, get your credit card statements every month, go through them. Make sure all the charges or withdrawals from the bank account are yours and that you made those. If not, get on the phone immediately, call your bank, call your credit card company, and challenge those charges or withdrawals. When you're using the internet, make sure you're using a secure Wi-Fi network. Don't just go into a local coffee shop and use their public website and start sending out things with your personal information on it. That might make you vulnerable to, one, having your data stolen, or two, to have your computer infected. So make sure that you're using a secure Wi-Fi site. Don't purchase things using public Wi-Fi or non-protected Wi-Fi. The other thing is, in this article, and the Wall Street Journal also brought this up very importantly, and I stress this whenever I'm speaking about identity theft, is make sure to use unique and long passwords or passphrases, a phrase that makes up your password, to protect your information online. The passwords you use to access remotely your bank accounts, the password that you use to access any credit card or any credit information. Make sure those passwords are robust, meaning not 1, 2, 3, 4 password as your password. Mix in letters, numbers, characters, the exclamation point, use numbers, use the $sign, use the percentage sign, intermixed with letters, capital and small. I know the more mixed up it is, the harder it is to remember, but do your best to mix these things in. For example, if you use a phrase as your password, one, don't use a famous phrase like 4 7 years ago. Use something that is another type of statement, and then interspersed with that statement, use, instead of a letter S, use the $sign. Instead of the letter S, use the number 5. And use it so that you'll remember the phrase, but you'll have interspersed in there these other things, like the A with a circle around it, the @ insert that instead of the A. And then when you'll remember the phrase, and you'll also remember, well, instead of using the A in that phrase, I use this, or instead of the S, I use the 5, or instead of C, I used a parenthesis sign, something like that, where you can remember it, but it also remains robust. And the longer the phrase or the password, the better. There's also the ability to use multi-factor authentication. For example, you can have it set up with your credit card that if you use your credit card, you will get a text message to verify that was a valid charge of yours, and you can just put in yes. or in order to make a purchase, you have a code that gets sent to you that you can insert to make that purchase. So double authentication or multi-factor authentication is valid. Unique codes that are sent out to your cell phone or some type of biometric where you use a thumbprint or something is also a very valuable protection. Keep your the device you're using, cell phone or your computer, keep the updates. So if you get an update for a Windows update, make sure to update the Windows. If you should have spyware protection and malware protection, virus protection on your computer. Make sure that's updated and current. Visit, again, websites directly rather than clicking on links that are embedded in some email or offer that you receive. If you're buying something online, as well as whether you're buying something in a physical store, make sure you understand what their return policy is. If you expect to be able to return it, you're giving it out as a gift, and you want it, the person already has the item, you find out, make sure you know before you buy it what their return policy is. Be very careful about shipping scams. You might receive an email or text saying your shipping's delayed. Be very careful about that before you click on any links that are located within there. So those are the types of things you can do to protect yourself when you're purchasing online. But on the other side, the flip of the coin, if you're selling online, you should also protect yourself. There are many sites out there that you can use to sell things. We recently sold some stuff in our house online. And we had a rule when we were going to sell our dining room table that we were only going to sell it to someone who will come to our house and pick it up. We're not going to say, well, we want you to ship it somewhere. No, you have to come to our house. We have to meet you. And we will then sell it to you. Be very careful. There's these Craigslist, Messenger, that you can sell things. There's all types of things out there. Just be very careful about it. Careful on answering classified sections in newspapers that are now often newspapers. Their classified sections are often online. Be very careful about those. Be very careful when you're selling online. If somebody attempts to pay you with a check, be very careful. They may send you this check, say, oh, just cash the check, the money will clear, and then we'll send somebody to come and pick up the item. Well, what they do typically is they will send you a check, have you go to the bank. It takes a little while for the check to clear, but it shows up on your account as having cleared, but it really hasn't yet, and you don't know that. And they say, well, I'll purchase that item. You're selling it for $1,000. I'll purchase that item. We're sending you a check, but the check's $1,500. Just go to the bank, cash it, use the $1,000 to pay for the item we're buying. And then if you would, wire us back $500, the difference. That's a common scheme. What they're attempting to do is to get you to withdraw that $500 from the bank before that check really has cleared and wire the money out. It's only after you wire the money out that you find out that the check is bad. And here's what happened. You deposited a check, but you wired out cash. The cash is gone. You're never going to get it back. All of a sudden, that $1,500 check just doesn't make it through the bank, and you get notified from the bank. It bounced. And so you've already sent out $500. You are going to be responsible for that $500. Even though that check that was sent to you bounced, because we are responsible under the law for every check that we deposit. If that check bounces, it's our responsibility. So don't spend any money until you're completely sure that any check that you receive is cleared. So the fake check scams are out there. They're happening all the time. My suggestion is only deal with local people if you're selling things online, and those who will come up and actually pick up the item and pay you for it then. Additionally, online, we have to be very safe. We have to protect our younger people also who are using the internet. Do not give out personal information to someone that you don't know. That means someone who contacts you over the internet. Be very careful about profiles and other information that you post on social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. Be very, very careful about what you post, and be very careful about who you give access to your profile so that somebody can't get your personal information and attempt to steal your identity. Social networking is great. It really is. It allows you to communicate, but be very careful. There's a lot of fake people out there. There are predators that are out there. There are pedophiles that are out there that are preying on our young people who try to pose as young people when in fact they're not, and they're predators. Be very careful. Know who you're dealing with. Be selective in who you let see your profiles. Be very careful. Be very careful about people who are contacting you over the internet to obtain any type of information. Do not disclose it to someone that you don't know. Be very careful when you're visiting unproven websites, and I call those not major retailer websites. Be careful of weak passwords. Be very careful about subscribing to mailing lists. It may say that it's free, but in this day and age, nothing is free. Our data, our personal information is very valuable. It is being sold among marketers, and then we're getting all types of solicitations. The recent hearings that are occurring in Congress about data and the use of data and the use of these social networking sites. We're hearing about how Facebook and Instagram is having an effect on the psychological health of our young people, and that this information that is out there on people is being used. And that's how a lot of these data collection outfits are using our personal data. They're making money off selling that information. That's why you're getting these targeted emails. I'll use an example. I'll be on Facebook. And I'm a lurker on Facebook. I very rarely post anything, but I look and see what's going on and see what my friends have been doing, that sort of thing. And if I'll get, let's say in my Facebook feed, I'll see that there's some particular product or something that I'm not going to buy, but maybe I find it interesting. And I just want to see what's out there. And I'll click on it. And lo and behold, the next time I go into Facebook, all of a sudden pops up something similar to that item that I was looking at on there. Well, you sit there and say, how did they know? Well, they know because that information is stored on what you're clicking on, what you're looking at, and then you get these targeted advertisements. And the big concern as part of these congressional hearings is what data is being collected. And Congress looking at, well, we're going to limit what data these places are going to be able to keep. And sometimes the social media sites are saying, whoa. We want to have this data. And the reason being is that they say it's, we can target the subscriber. We can target them because we know what they're interested in because they're looking at this particular thing. We can target them with directed ads because we know they're interested in it, and we'll get them. And I see the value in that. But on the other hand, we are then getting inundated with other types of ads and solicitations. And when you expand it where our information is being exchanged and given to other entities, all of a sudden, more and more people are getting our personal information. So we have to be very careful and make sure that we know. So when you subscribe to a mailing list, and you say, oh, it's free. Well, it's not free. Because when you subscribe to that mailing list, your name and the information you provide is being given out to somebody else, and then that person is giving it out to somebody else, and then that person is giving it out to somebody else. And so we have to be very careful. Also, when you're, let's say you get an email or something, be very careful about who it's sent from. For example, I think I mentioned earlier, it could look like it's from a major well-known company. Let's use Amazon. But if you really look closely, it looks like Amazon, but it might be slightly different. One thing you can do is take your mouse and hover, meaning don't click, but hover over that email address. And you can see where it's really going. So it could say Amazon fulfillment. And then you scroll or you hover over it, and it may show it's ISW4416.com or something like that. You say, wow, that's not Amazon. So that's one way to also check and see if you are really dealing with who you think you want to do. A lot of purchasing is done this time of year, so you might miss fraudulent charges on your credit cards as well, or bank statements because you're purchasing so much. Don't just breeze through it. Go through it. Take the time. The best thing you can do as a good consumer, take your time, look, make sure that every charge is yours. Don't miss something, because that one fraudulent charge could ultimately lead to many more fraudulent charges. The sooner you pick it up, the better. If you take these steps, you'll go a long way toward protecting yourself on the internet. Again, it's a wonderful thing. I have packages being delivered all the time. I recognize that fact, but we have to be very good and very good and wise consumers so that we make that buying decision a good and fulfilling one. If anybody has any questions about this, feel free to throw them in the chat, or feel free to contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office. We would be glad to answer the questions that you might have. If you have a problem with the business, contact us and we can give you some guidance as to how to either file a complaint with us we can attempt to mediate to resolve, or give you some proactive steps that you can use to protect yourself. Again, thank you very much. I hope those of you who are with us here now have a wonderful and happy holiday season. And for those of you watching it, we hope you had a wonderful and happy holiday season. And we will see you our next time. I'll send it back to Sandy.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I don't see any questions. I think you must have covered it all. So thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody who joined us today for this presentation. Mr. Danaher will be back with us on Thursday, January 13th at 11 a.m. with a program on consumer credit issues. You can find the Zoom link for the event on our event listings on our website at ccetompkins.org/events. Thanks and have a good day.